ARH7 Resurgence is on its way, and today I'm here with set lead designer to talk all things Star Wars Destiny ARH7 Resurgence. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Star Wars Destiny folks. Happy Destiny Friday, and welcome back for a very exciting episode here with Echo3, our glorious set design leader. How's it going, my friend?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah. We as we talked before, figuring out everything with the work and all that, but it's
Yeah.
it's good. It's good to see your smiling face again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on.
All right, so goal of today, we're going to talk ARH7. We're going to talk kind of your set plans around it, and then yes, that's right, we've got some spoilers, kids. We've got some spoilers, which we're going to, and we have a bunch actually, but we're gonna walk through. So why don't you start us off? Tell us kind of what the overall goal or philosophy behind this set was.
Well, having been on the design team, this is my fourth set now. The main thing they wanted to do is continue the sub themes and mechanics that we've introduced over the last few sets. Things like the identities on sub themes. So for Yellow Villain, it wasn't so much scoundrels and bounty hunters, but there was a sub theme of let's call it the Black Store Station sub theme, removing your own dice, like continuing those sub themes. Reroll not as a sub theme, but continuing to give that an identity in force sensitive location, like cards, abilities, that sort of thing, and just continuing what we started in the last set. And I think we've got a good we've had the same team as the last set, so it was myself, Victor Farrier, Echo3, and then Rebel Traitor and Bassmaster joined us for this set, and their input has been fantastic. And it incredibly hard. I think we had about 200 cards that I needed to break down to our final number, so the set actually comes in at 118. And I was debating whether or not do we do a big ARH set, but kind of worked against it. We didn't have the time. You know, I went into playtest with 140 cards, and there was just no logistics to support testing that many cards in the time that we had for it. But I think we've nailed it. Plateau the power level. That was a main one with display of power. There was a few comments afterwards. These kind of feel like FFG cards in power level. But then
Meaning lower or higher?
Yeah, lower.
Got it.
Someone like Cham Syndulla, for example, if he'd have come out in the last FFG set, you'd think he'd be on pretty good on the money. But just trying to bring it down slightly. Hands up, we missed Obi-Wan, but he was our figurehead of the set, so he had to be good. And he's rightly so. He's probably a 16, and he may go up to a 16 in due time. But the meta's been solid, so I've been happy with it, and just trying to continue that and continue the mechanics with this set.
Great. So I have to ask, this is your third set as lead.
Yes.
Which is the new record. You're now the most sets under your belt as design lead. How have you avoided, let's call it set design psychosis, right? How have you been able to keep your head down and plow through?
You see this pose? This is me most nights, like scratching my forehead. Have I just having, we're all here for the community. We're all continuing this game because of the friends that we've made. Well, for me personally, the friends that I've made through playing this game in real life events here in the UK, and the people I've met online. and that kind of keeps me going. I mean, I'm self-employed, so I'm fortunate enough to have the time in the day and in the evening to put the time in, and it really is a full-time job. When I say it's 30 to 40 hours a week, that there's no lie. Like, that's how much time goes in over a 4 to 5 month cycle with this. I think that's probably why Rock and Troll maybe left the game after. I don't know. But the time that gets put in, for me, is for the community. I love the community. I love this game. I don't play too many card games, but this game is head and shoulders above anything else I've ever played or experienced, and I'm doing it for everyone else and for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the game. There's a selfish level in it. I don't want the game to diminish. So I'm doing my bit to keep it going. And hopefully, well, I know everyone's grateful for the ARH's input, and we spoke before, but the amount of people that are involved in making a set happen. I named the designers, so thank the designers, and then moving on to the playtest team and their free time that goes into playtesting. Playtesting is a very hard process because what I give them are plain cards. There's no art. There's very little incentive to. They're not building off of a DB. They're built. Have you ever opened the TTS and you've picked cards out of the stacks and you've built a deck that way? That's how the playtest team go about it. So I'm very grateful for their time in experimenting and learning the cards. So shout out to DJ Claro, who headed up playtest, and Sign and Rando, Gringo, Eric Gameslayer, Norman. Had a very big playtest team on this set, so that should put us in good stead with the set release.
Awesome. And then, of course, your graphics team, right?
Very few people know this, but I do all of the art for the cards and have
Oh,
done for
I
display of
I did
power.
not know that.
So I do the art as well. I work with Sarah, so Sarah templates it all. But I do all of the art sourcing and filtering the art, and Sarah sources it, and she waves her magic wand and works all of the evenings under the sun once I've given her all of those cards, and she makes the cards come to life. And the beautiful ARH templating is all her work, and they just look fantastic. But I have to nod my head to Solace, who has historically done all of the art. So I joined the art team during Unlikely Heroes, and I worked alongside him, and he taught me the art, so to speak, literally on how it's done. So hats off and thanks to Solace for letting me continue that. And fortunately, I don't think anyone's noticed that Solace doesn't do it anymore. So that's a good thing. That no, if no one's noticed, then that's fine. That's good.
Well, I did not realize you were. I did not know that. So that's a big cap to fill or seat, whatever metaphor you want to use. That's a lot of work. So
Yeah,
thank you for
that's
doing all that.
that's all right. You're welcome. I enjoy it. Headphones in, music. It's a good time.
All right, fair enough. Well, I've got a couple more questions for you, but let's give the kids what the kids want. Shall we start off with our spoilers and kind of walk us through these cards, and we can kind of talk there's a very clear design theme in these. So first up, we have Cassian Andor Alliance Loyalist. So he's 12-15 with 12 health, 2 gun, 3 gun for 1. Discard, 2 discard for 1 indirect, a resource and a blank. He has piloting. After a card is discarded from an opponent's hand during the action phase, place 1 resource on this character, and then a PA, remove 2 resources from this card to play a yellow card from your hand, decreasing its cost by 1. So I kind of like the little head nod to like OG Jin there as well. That's pretty cool. So talk us through this card.
So with Cassian, I I was fighting with his. I'll start by saying I was fighting with his subtitle of Alliance Loyalist, or if I should have called him Selling Intel. That was kind of the theme that I wanted to capture. Is the opponent, he's making use out of what the opponent's getting rid of. So he starts to. We see in Andor he's a bit of a thief, and that's the side that we wanted to capture. You'll notice he's not a partisan. He has piloting and scoundrel, because it just kind of felt like he wasn't full on partisan or spy in the Andor series, and remember that's what we're trying to hit. He was a pilot and he was a scoundrel. He wasn't a good character, but from a design perspective, continuing McCarrick and sub theme, this started in the last set with Cham Syndulla, and he had a design of removing resources from his card. So I wanted to continue that with this with these guys. I know he's not a partisan, but I just wanted to continue that sub theme of adding and removing resources. So it should play as its own archetype when you see the supporting caster cards.
Right. Fair enough. And then, to that end, let's go on to the next one. So this is Karis Nemec, Freedom Fighter. So he's an 8/10 with 9 health. Yellow hero, obviously. 1 gun, 2 indirect, a focus, a shield, and then 2 resource for 1 resource and a blank. This individual is a partisan trooper, which makes sense because he was very into the theory of being a rebel and all that. But after you activate this character, you may add or remove a resource from a gray, red, or yellow non-plot card in play. So very specifically, he can't mess with the Jedi. So talk us through this and how it fits into kind of that overall, again, we're starting to see a theme develop, or a sub-theme develop, I should say.
Yeah, so this guy really, as a character in the TV show, he stood out to me. I thought he was quite a good character. He you nailed it on the head. We didn't want him interacting with the Jedi. There's very little Jedi There's no Jedi interaction in Andor. And there was a few interactions of blue cards. I can't remember what it's called, but there's the blue support that resets a character, blue hero card. I didn't want this guy with Yoda resetting. That's that wasn't a nice interaction during playtest. So we cut that on the head and we kept it more in line with theme. But we're looking with this guy. I'm looking to pair him with Cassian and then a 7-pointer. That will come out on release day. I haven't showed you the secret 7-pointer. That's the other thing with design. You like to push like a pre-made deck. Like in the last set, we had the son and the daughter. Unlikely heroes, we had Baze and Chirrut. There are a couple of almost pre-mades. We want people to play pre-made decks. So this guy fits in. I think he's good for his points at 8/10 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should find a spot.
Yeah, it will be interesting. So that's interesting. There's a 7-pointer coming. I was assuming maybe you were doing like a 3-wide 1-die thing was the archetype. So we'll be looking forward to that. And quick note on the pre-made decks. I love the pre-made arc themes. Like the Baze Chirrut thing. I really enjoy having 2 to 3 of those per set. Is there a number that you aim for? Is it minimum 1 or you aim for more?
Always minimum 1. How many come out of that? There's no set target.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no lie. In the release article that I put out a few days ago, we're hitting the Bad Batch. Obviously, they're going to play as a pre-made.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be a miss if we didn't make them play like that. And just a nod on Baze and Chirrut. I know Guy Love has been your deck for forever. And the Insurgent group plot is a fun fact. I remember watching one of your podcasts and you said, wouldn't it be great if I could include the bow rifles? Because there's the perfect base sides for Chirrut. So as a nod of, like myself, Arathian, Marjo, Sarah, we're always listening. So off of the back of that, I designed that Insurgent group plot so that you could have your bow rifles. So, it's one of those things for people watching on the Discord, voices, I very rarely say much. I'm always online every day. I'm always reading. I'm always taking ideas from what you guys say. So keep it up, and you never know. I might make an appearance in a set to come.
Nice. I love it. All right, moving on. What would Cassian be without B2 emo. He's the emo droid. So for one support droid, after you remove one or more resources from a card in play, you may deal 1 indirect damage to an opponent. Then you may spot Cassian Andor or Marva Andor. Ooh, very interesting. And exhaust this support to give a character 1 shield. So that does rule out B2 as being the 7-point character, or at least I guess it doesn't, but probably does.
Bimo this was a fun card to design. It's that it's like Black Store Station. It plays in it reward. This is kind of the sub reward for playing the archetype. You know, getting that ping, or if you're spotting Cassian or Marva, you can tap for the shield. It's just that reward for playing the archetype. Was fighting with him in should he be a character? And in the last set we had Ned B, a cool droid from the Kenobi series, Obi-Wan series. Like where should droids be characters or should they be supports? Because, you know, like the R2D2 or PO back in the FFG, they were 1 cost, 2 cost supports. But then of course they eventually became characters. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you were to do K2SO, we've obviously had 2 character interactions. Would people be okay with him being a support? You know, it's one of those droids you can get away with them being a support or a character.
Mm-hmm. Well, we could always make characters supports too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good point.
My 18 resource Yoda that I can drop on the table. Right?
Yeah. But that's just another like little design catch of whether it would we've got this, we want this in the set skeleton. Is this a character? Is this a support? Or are they not going to feature at all? That's just another aspect to the process.
Makes sense. All right, moving on. Told you we had a lot. So Partisan Rifle for a 3-drop hero yellow weapon does have redeploy. You gotta love seeing that. This upgrade enters play with 1 resource on it, and then action, remove 1 resource from this upgrade to resolve this die, increasing its value by 1. That's pretty awesome. 2 gun, plus 3 gun, a discard, 2 discard does not suck, a resource, and then a blank. And this is definitely a head nod to an old weapon as well, right? Was it the CR30Z or whatever it was?
Yeah, that one, oh god, what did that do?
You know which one I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah, it had a special, right? It had a
what was that?
Deal 3 damage or 3 damage or 4 damage.
Oh no, you know what? It's actually an ARH card. There was a card, it's the Dinjarin thing. The Whistling Birds has the resource.
Whistling Birds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So with the resource, of course, Nemec, he's adding and removing resources. Mm-hmm. The previous character that we looked at. So he's going to be very good with Whistling Birds because, you know, Whistling Birds typically 2-drop, do some AoE damage, and then you overwrite. But with Nemec, he can keep that AoE damage going with the Whistling Birds. Once you've resolved this Partisan Rifle or the AK-47 or whatever it looks like, you boost this. Do you boost for ramp? Do you want to hit that resource early? Get 2 resources out of it. Activate Nemec. Put another resource on this. So there's some play around your tactics on what you want to do there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to? Yeah, this is a good gun. I mean, you know, we're losing Vibro Sword on rotation with FA leaving. So it was important to get a good solid 3-cost yellow upgrade in. Mm-hmm. Of course, this isn't neutral, this is hero, but villain yellow have an equivalent.
All right, fair enough. Well, that's good info we just gleaned, is that Vibro Sword rip Vibro Sword. Rip. Right, last one. I really like this card. So for 2-drop, this is Nobody's Listening. Hero yellow. remove an opponent's die, then you may draw a card, heal 1 damage from a character, and place 1 resource on a card in play, right? So just putting it in perspective, right? You must remove the opponent's die in order to do the then, but then you can draw a card, heal 1 damage from a character, and place 1 resource on a card in play. The value on this card is very, very strong situationally. This is a really cool, I think this is a greatly designed card. I'm really a fan of this card.
Thank you. We've kind of come under a little bit of flack over the last few sets of 0 and 1 cost mitigation. And people aren't really packing the 2 costs. If you're packing 2 costs, it's Headstrong, Power of the Stripe, or Power of the Tribe, sorry. The big boys. But I wanted to kind of push the cost on mitigation, but you get something else for it.
Right.
I'm always a fan of those cards. And obviously this feeds into the sub-archetype that we've got going on. Everyone likes to draw cards. We found out how powerful card draw can be over the last few metas. And placing a resource, charging up whatever it is that you're doing with your archetype. If you want to get on Cassian, place them on Cassian, on your gun, on your Whistling Birds. There are other things coming as well to support the archetype. So it's a well-placed card. I think, I mean, even without the resource placing, I think it sees a play with just in the cycle of replacing itself and healing a damage. I think it's quite strong.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I really like this is because it supports, it's extra value for that archetype, right? The resource archetype. And the value on it is interesting, right? Because if you put it on the gun, for example, which is essentially an invested resource, then it's actually 1 additional value. If you just put it on Cassian, which is a start and play resource, it's only half of a resource value, right? Because you need 2 resources to remove for him. This one is well done. I really like this. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Chef's kiss. That's always a good review.
Yeah. Well, in Destiny, I think, as you kind of mentioned, right, you set the bar a little higher, but then you conditionally get more out of it. And I think that's, you know, as opposed to, like you mentioned, the 0 cost removal where it effectively doesn't cost you anything except for the card. Something like this, you have to plan and play around, but then you might still have that value. It's just you have to be smart about it. And I love stuff like that where, you're like, oh, he's not doing anything. He's sitting on nobody's listening. Or is he not? So I love it. I love it. Right, going back to Cassian, I did have a mechanics question for you. So it says, after a card is discarded from an opponent's hand during the action phase. So if I discard 2 cards, I get 2 resources, right? Because it's not 1 or more. Or is it, if I discard 2 cards, I get 1 resource? I'm
going to say, if you resolve the 2 discard, you'll get 2 resources on it. Yeah. That's design intent. And okay. This is another part of the process is there's always design intent, and then there's the syntax team who do a great job. Is Gareth, Parfit, Alex, Super DK, Echo3. So I work closely with them on. They always, whenever I hand over the final PDF, so to speak, there's always this question of, is this what you intend it to do? Sometimes they come up with interactions that I've wildly missed. Or sometimes it goes the other way. They've misinterpreted what I've tried to say. But we always get there in the end. But the design intent on this is, yes, resolve 2 discard, you get 2. Of course, if you discard to reroll, that's going to tick up Cassian as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, obviously they're the rules lawyers, but I agree that that's how this does read. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like an easy pickings type thing where it would only trigger like 1 retribution ping if you still remove 2 dice. But that's definitely how this reads. So cool. That was the only question I had on that. This looks really fun actually with like the resource bouncing. I think this looks really fun. So I'm excited to try this and see how the team completes itself.
Well, there was a slight spoiler on the emo droid of who may complete that lineup.
Yeah, fair enough. And actually, that's a smart. One would think that individual might be a 7-point character if you were to that. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Supporting character like that. Yeah. Right. So you had mentioned kind of early on in today's video that you were, reevaluating and continuing to support mechanics, develop them. Charm. So that was kind of your baby, right? Or I should say your team's baby.
Yep.
Where are you? Are you happy with Charm? What's your take on it as it exists today?
So Charm, Seeking Answer release. I think we were disappointed in the initial response to it, but I think once people played a few games with it, they were happy with how it played. We
Mm-hmm.
were definitely internally happy with how it played. Um, it was actually Arathian's baby Charm.
Oh, okay.
And I've ran with it, shall we say, the last few sets. Um, where it settles now, I mean, we did have a big supporting cast and support cards in the previous set, Display of Power. So I think Charm, as we develop more cards for it, it's obviously just is going to get stronger. But I think with what we've got coming, we've got some more counter abilities to it. I think that's what we were missing. Sure, there was one card that we released in Seeking Answers. I can't remember its name, which let you remove a charm token to remove a charm offensive. But we've got more ways to kind of weaponize charm if you find yourself in a pickle and you can't deal with that charm mill deck. Um, but I'm happy with where it is, and as a team, I think we are. But this is always one of those fun things. I've seen since releasing the article at the weekend. This just plays nicely into something that I wanted to say with keywords. So detect. People were saying, like, with the Dedra Miro and the ISB things, I've seen a lot of chatter about detect. Like, it'd be a good place to bring detect back. Last week or the week before your podcast, you picked up on why detect shouldn't come back, and that's because you'd have to bring with it all of the supporting cards. And keywords tend to have a life cycle of 3 sets.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't done anything with detect since high stakes. So that was set 3. We're now on set 7. So maybe it's one of those things we can return to in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But charm as a mechanic will run its. I'll say for now, it will run its course in this set. And it'll be up to the next set lead if they want to continue that. But yeah, I wanted to say that about detect. It seems to be an unknown fact of the keywords and any mechanics that come in like that, and like their life cycle, and
Mm-hmm.
how long we can effectively support that in the game.
Right. Unless it becomes a staple.
Of
So
course,
to
yeah,
that end, right? You mentioned the keywords. It is not that big of a deal to rotate in and out keywords. You can do it with card support. But something like reroll, right? When you and by that I mean the reroll die side that was
sure,
introduced. Was it last set? No, 2 sets ago, right?
yeah, seeking answers.
Yeah. So something like that is able to just be permanently supported, correct? Because it doesn't need card interactions, right?
No, I think that's a mechanic that's here to stay. It's a new dice side. There's no reason for that to leave. Um, I've got a fun story about how I come up with reroll. If you want to hear it.
Sure.
So the daily workings, how we work and design, is on an online Excel spreadsheet, which works in that I then work through a program called Nandek that produces the playtest files, the card files. There's a very simple template, and I actually typed in the wrong code for a die symbol, and the symbol that the program produced was a swirl, and it didn't look out of place on the template card. So I spent about a week scratching my chin, constantly looking at, like, saying this. It looks right. So it put in the across the galaxies galaxy swirl, and it looked right. And I was thinking, what could that do? And it just looked like it would. Anyway, so yeah, that's how reroll came about. That's just. You'd think there was some clever story behind it, but that's all it was. It was just a miscued key on an Excel spreadsheet that popped up a funny symbol on the program.
Well, fair. I mean, that's how we have penicillin, right? Somebody made a mistake. So
Yeah. I'm
fair
never
enough.
sure if I should. I'm just not sure if I should say these things, and you can all think that we're a genius team or not, or I never know if that's the sort of thing I should say.
Yeah,
You can think that you think we're geniuses. That's fine.
well, I'll go with that. That's fine. No, I actually like reroll. I think it's really solid. I think that there's no reason it can't exist um, perpetually, or not can't exist. Like no reason for it not to exist perpetually, because there's a lot of characters in which you can bring disrupt. Right, disrupt has traditionally been represented by disruption and discarding, and disrupt obviously being the weaker of the two, although still sometimes useful. But reroll is kind of fills a different niche, right? And how you've used it. And I think it's very flavorful also, because you
Thank
can
you.
help and disrupt at the same time. And I think that it fits and it should stay.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I think initially we undervalued it. In seeking answers, we were including values of one or two,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't people watching. If I was joining games on TTS or watching gameplay, watching Lando on Echo Base or whatever games I was watching, I was seeing that people were not resolving a one reroll, and I think they were seeing the value in a two reroll.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the lesson that we learned from seeking answers. So those reroll values are higher. So I think we're in a good spot with it now. I do apologize for the 5 die rainbow reroll deck that frustrated a few people at the beginning of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of an inadvertent pre-made deck, so to speak. Like we wanted that to be a thing. Fortunately, it didn't really take off. I wouldn't really stand up now, but at the front of the meta, it was quite frustrating.
Sure.
So that's an apology to the community for that one.
No, it was a cool deck to see fire. I think we've seen that time and
Yeah.
time again in Destiny, especially where when you can start chains of things, that can get out of control real quick, right?
Oh, absolutely, definitely.
No, but all good. Well, great. Well, thanks for joining us and talking us through this and sharing. That's right, 5 spoilers, 5 spoilers. Did you have anything else you wanted to chat about or other shout outs you wanted to give before we get out of here?
Um, well, thank you to yourself to continue to support us on our journey. It means the world, absolutely. Whilst I'm on my thank yous, I'd like to. I think I gave everyone a shout out earlier, but design team Victor, Echo3, Rebel Traitor, Bassmaster. He was great. He was my side man on this one. I was really able to tap into his game knowledge as well for inspiration on where we should go with cards.
Mm-hmm.
Same with DJ. Same with DJ with his feedback, proposing a card, and his taking his feedback on. It plays well, but maybe he just helped to put a finishing touch on a few of the cards. So my thanks to DJ Sign, Rando Mando, Gringo, Eric, Game Slayer, Norman, Darthinu. Thank you for playtesting this set. Thank you to Elrathian and Mojo and Sarah in trusting me with the process. Anyone else I've missed thanking? I'm sorry, but thank you. And thank you for the players to continue to play.
Yes, that one for sure. That one for sure.
Absolutely.
And then can we
Absolutely.
expect to see some Darth Vienu art in this set as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
Yes. I've returned as well with a piece of art. We've also got pistachios.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some good looking art coming up. Darth, they've hit some good ones. I've seen the artwork. I've not seen it in the template, but I'm very excited to see it.
Well,
Very excited.
that's a good little teaser to leave this off with. So we will be looking
Yeah.
forward to that. So set releases mid-June, so we'll be looking for that. That'll give 5 to 6 weeks before the big Gen Con tournament. So make sure that you're
Yep.
catching everything right away, and then we can see how Gen Con turns out and go from there. So, All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much for using your evening to chat with me today, or this morning with us, as it will be when this goes live. So, if nothing else, I wanted to again thank you and all of the ARH folks for all the hard work you're doing. And then say it with me, buddy. Go Commando.
Go Commando.